Hello, I'm Sonia. It is so lovely to meet with you. We are about to catch up for our very first consultation together. And what I wanted to do in this video is share with you 4 things. Firstly, I wanted to introduce myself, tell you a little bit about me, and then talk about what we'll be doing together in our consultation. And then I want to ask you to send me 3 pieces of information in advance so we can maximize your time with me. So at that very first catch up, we can really deep dive into everything that you want to talk about. And I love to do a little bit of preparation work before we even meet. So I'll go through those bits of information that if you're interested in, you could send to me beforehand. And then the final thing we're going to do together is really an optional extra. It's a bonus. Honestly, I'm very happy for you just to ignore it. It's no problem. It's an optional extra for those clients who actually want to do a little bit more work before we catch up. And that work is around getting some testing done with their GP or their allied health professional. And I just keep stressing this, it's an option. Please don't feel like you have to do this. If you're listening to this going, oh my God, this is so much information, just ignore it. It's usually what I actually do at our very first catch up. But recently, because my waiting list is running quite long at the moment, I've had a few people get in contact saying, seeing as we're waiting a little bit, could we get some work done before we even meet? And so this is my attempt to answer that, because whatever I can do to make you feel happy and healthy and well and comfortable, I will absolutely do. So it's an optional extra. Don't feel like you have to. All right, so let's get started. Firstly, my name is Sonia and I am a naturopath, a nutritionist, a herbalist, and I am very passionate about you living the kind of life that you want to, with the energy, the vibrancy, and the lust for life that you deserve. I am a practitioner who is fascinated by hormones, and particularly hormones that are hijacking your health. People who see me usually have either a thyroid condition or some sort of hormone that's not loving life and causing them to be fatigued, foggy, struggle with their weight, and have some sort of sore tummy issue. So the kind of hormones that I'm interested in is hypothyroidism or Hashimoto's thyroiditis, hyperthyroidism or Graves' disease, and then your female hormones, so estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. They're also our male hormones, so men and women struggling with those kind of, we call them sex hormones, as well as hormones that are hijacking your weight and your energy, so your sugar-loving and your fat-loving hormones. And look, anytime we have this kind of conversation about hormones, we've always got to touch base with tummy health. So reflux, constipation, diarrhea, and everything that's involved in having a really healthy, happy tummy. So what will we do at our catch up together? This is the very first time we caught up. So what I like to start off with is find out firstly, what is your health goal? So what is it you want to achieve, and what kind of time frame were you hoping to do that in? And then I want to establish a baseline. Where are you now specific to those goals? And when I say that, I mean, I'm really interested in you holistically. So every part of you and how you're feeling. And then I want to find out what's causing you to not get to where you want to go. I'm interested in what you've tried in the past, what's worked, what hasn't worked, and what kind of explorations, like what do we need to know about your body so we actually find out the root cause of what's going on. I'm really interested in what's actually going on in your body, and then mounting a solution specific to what's going on for you, such that we might even be able to resolve or address the root cause, the very initial reason why you're not experiencing the energy or the weight or the tummy health or the libido that you wish to experience. So you call the way that I practice an evidence-based practitioner, a science-based practitioner. So at the end of that first consultation, you'll either have a recommendation to go away to get a little bit more information done for me. So I mean by that testing, and I'll explain to you how you get the testing done, where you get it done, how much it costs, if that's relevant. Or if we've got enough information at that first appointment, what I'll do is I'll set out a plan for you, a step-by-step plan for you to achieve the goals that you want to achieve in the time frame that you've established with me. And then I'll give you some milestones to achieve along the way. So I'd expect you to be feeling this way at month 1, if we were successful, month 2, month 3, etc., etc. And then really it's over to you to sort of share with me if that's of interest to you, if you're happy to move forward with that, or if you'd like to explore something else. At that first appointment, we'll set up the next few times that we're going to visit to make sure that I touch base with you, to make sure that you are moving in a predictable manner forward until you are enjoying the health and the well-being and the vitality that you wish to and that you deserve as your birthright as a human being. So before we catch up, I want you to send me 3 pieces of information, whether it's via email or Facebook Messenger. Choose whatever works for you and shoot it off to me. What I'd like you to send me is a list of any prescription medications you've been given by your doctor or your treating medical professional. So I'm A-okay for you to send me a photograph of the box. Please do that. I want to know what the medication's called and what your dosage is. Then what I'd like you to do is send me a list of any supplements you take. Now, supplements are protein powders, pre-workout shakes, post-workout shakes, any kind of amino acid muscle builders, plus also vitamins like vitamin C, minerals like zinc, and then any herbal remedies you take, sleep aids as well. And then finally, what I'd love you to send me is your previous 2 years of medical tests. So blood tests or tests that a doctor has requested on your behalf. Even if you've been told that they're all normal, there was no finding, I'd still love you to send it to me. Again, people often just take a photo and shoot it to me. That's great. Please make sure it's clear so I can read it. And also make sure it's portrait so it's easy for me to access. Please don't make it on the side or blur. If you can't read it, there's no way I'm going to be able to read it on my phone or on my laptop. All right, so that's a little bit about what you can send to me before we catch up. Now I'll review that. So if you could get that to me about 5 days before we catch up, earlier is fine, but sort of a minimum of 5 days before we catch up, that would be great. I'll spend some time going through that. I'll look at the medications you have, the supplements that you're taking, or maybe even have at home and not taking, and then your most recent medical tests. So when you and I meet, I've reviewed all of that in preparation for our catch-up. And so the final piece of the puzzle is an optional extra. So I'm now up to point 4. So if that sounds like enough for you, you're okay just to have listened to this section. You're going to get me those 3 pieces of information. Perfect. We can draw a line under it there, and I'm very happy to just wait until we catch up and we have our lovely time together to work out what our next steps are. But if you're the sort of person that really wants to jump in now and do as much as you can do before we catch up, this final bonus section is for you. So these are some tests that you might enjoy exploring with your general practitioner or your allied health professional before we catch up. Get a copy of them and bring them along to our visit together. All right, so the way that I'm going to do is I'm going to think about the most common questions that I get when people seeing me. And that is generally, I'm tired, I want a boost of energy, I'm not able to lose weight and specifically fat, or I'm gaining weight quickly, or I'm interested in thyroid health, female hormone concerns. And female hormone concerns are generally that week before the period, you know, I'm struggling with bloating or urinary tract infections or thrush or I get sore boobs, or I get migraines or headaches, or I'm really tired, or my mood starts to fray, I'm screaming at the kids, or I'm crying, and all of that kind of happens that week before or 2 weeks before the period. Or gut issues, so chronic ongoing constipation or diarrhea or bloating or heartburn. So what I want to do is set out a set of tests that you could get done for each one of those concerns. And then at the end of this video, I'm going to explain how the Australian Medicare system works and how you would interact with your doctor in requesting these tests in Australia, because it's important to be respectful and understand the landscape and the environment of the Australian medical system. So if you're one of my overseas clients, you don't need to listen to that last little bit. But let's stay with me through the testing now, because regardless of where you're from, this kind of testing is relevant. So I'm going to talk about thyroid first up. So I would like you to get thorough thyroid testing. And as far as I'm concerned, for me, that's thyroid stimulating hormone, TSH. Free T4, written as FT4. Free T3, written as FT3. Plus, I'd like to see your thyroid antibodies. If you think that you're sluggish or have low thyroid function, I'd love your Hashimoto's antibodies. That's your thyroid peroxidase antibodies and your thyroid globulin antibodies. If you suspect or know that you have Graves' disease or hyperthyroidism, you're not sure why, I'd like you to get your Graves' antibodies tested. So your thyroid stimulating immunoglobulins, TSI, or your thyroid receptor antibodies, TRABs. Now, I also would like your reverse T3, regardless of whether you're hypo or hyper, Hashies or Graves. I'd like to see your reverse T3 score, written as RT3. In Australia, that's a functional test. You will always need to pay for it. And I'll talk a little bit more about that at the end. In terms of female hormones, really we're talking about before your period. There's about a week or 2 weeks where you really just don't feel like you should. You're not enjoying the energy or the weight or the comfort in your body that you feel that you want to be. So what I'd like you to do is get an estradiol, which is E2 or estrogen, and a progesterone test done on day 21 of your cycle, where day 1 is the first full day of a bleed. So ignore any days that you spot. They're not the first day. Day 1 is the first day you've got to use a pad, a tampon, a moon cup, or a menstrual cup. That first day of a full bleed. And then you count forward 21 days, and it's that day, day 21, that you get this test done. Now, that's really specifically if you have a 28-day cycle. So day 29 is day 1 of your next period. If you've got a 32-day cycle, or your cycle bounces around quite a bit, all you can do for me is make a note of when that first period was, when the first day 1 was that you counted forward day 21. And then I also want you to know when is the next date of day 1. So when's your next period date? So just make a note of those, and then I can work out what day in your cycle you were. In terms of female hormone issues, I also actually want to know your testosterone. So I want to know your total testosterone, your sex hormone binding globulin, and your FAI, free androgen index. And if you suspect that you might have PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, so you've got a very irregular cycle, you can skip periods, you may not get a period, it might be months in between periods, and then it comes really quickly, it's kind of all over the shop. What I'd like you to get done is on day 3 of your cycle, so you're waiting for a period bleed, day 3, where day 1 is the first day of a full bleed, follicle stimulating hormone, FSH, and luteinizing hormone, LH. I'd also like from you your total testosterone, sex hormone binding globulin, free androgen index, plus I want to see your fasting insulin, not glucose, but insulin. So your doctor will more than likely write a blood glucose or a blood sugar test. Please also request an insulin, and if they do that, that's brilliant. Now, sometimes doctors will write an oral glucose tolerance test, OGTT. We love that. Ask for an OGTT with Insulin. Oh, that's a brilliant test. I love seeing that when there's ever a weight concern or a polycystic ovarian concern or some sort of metabolic syndrome concern. Now, I realize I haven't mentioned up until now, whatever test you're getting done, please get it done fasted. Always, 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 whether you're asked for it or not, if you're going to be showing me the results and you and I are working together, I would like it done fasted. Fasting is 12 hours only. So work out when you can get to the lab in the morning. So let's say you've got to do it after you drop the kids at school. So it's going to be like 9:30, 9:45. That means 12 hours beforehand is 9:30 at night. 9:45 at night. That means you need to be cooking at sort of 8:30, 9 o'clock, eating at 9 o'clock, so you're all finished up at 9:30. So factor that in. Don't over fast. You make some of these tests irrelevant if you over fast. Never exercise during a fast. Please don't take any supplements during a fast. And if you're taking a thyroid test, please don't take your thyroid test medications in the morning. Take them with you to the test, and once the lady's taken your blood or gentleman's taken your blood, then take your thyroid medications and you can eat an hour later. That's only thyroid medications. All other medications follow your doctor's directions on that. All right, so that's testing. Never fast water. Always drink copious quantities of water, especially if someone's going to take your blood. Okay, so let me now move on to if fatigue is a concern, what kind of tests would you get done? Well, I'd like the thorough thyroid testing that I spoke about before. Plus, if your fatigue is the last 2 weeks of your cycle, if you're a woman, I'd like to get that day 21 estradiol and progesterone. If you're a dude and fatigue is your concern, I want you to get a total testosterone, sex hormone binding globulin, and a free androgen index. Plus, dudes, I want you to get your estrogen done as well. I know. Men have estrogen and progesterone as well. So for a guy, often what can be happening is that their testosterone is a tiny little bit too low and their estrogen is a tiny little bit too high when it comes to fatigue. May be going on. All right, let me just check my list to make sure I've covered everything. So for fatigue, I also want your insulin level, particularly if your fatigue bounces around quite a lot during the day. Look, ideally, I'd love that oral glucose tolerance test with insulin, but it's a long test. It takes about 2 hours. You go there fasted, they take your blood, and then they give you a little vial of glucose to have, and then they take it an hour later, and then they take it an hour after that. So it's a 2-hour test, so it's a bit of an investment of time, but if you've got it, that would be superb, particularly if you find that your fatigue level seems to be better or worse for food. So food gives you energy or food takes energy away. And if you're like, there's no way I could hang around for 2 hours, or I just don't think my doctor would be prepared to write that test for me, that's fine. I really want a fasting insulin. That's the most important for me in terms of fatigue. I also want a couple of nutrition tests done as well if fatigue is an issue for you. I'd like to see a iron panel, which is 4 tests all in one. It's an iron, which tells me what's sloshing around in your blood. It's your ferritin, which tells me what's stored. It's your transferrin and transferrin saturation, which tells me about your inflammation levels and how they're impacting on fatigue and iron transportation. And plus also if you're genetically predisposed to do kind of odd things with your iron. And then I really want a B12, and I absolutely want a B12 if you're vegetarian, vegan, you avoid red meat or meat in general, or you have any kind of gut issues, you're on a protein pump inhibitor, so something like Nexium or Pariet, or a stomach acid lowerer, or you're over the age of 40, I really want that B12. Now in Australia, most doctors will, if you ask for an iron and a B12, they'll do a red blood cell count or a full blood cell count, RBC or FBC. I'm open for that, that's great. But if you're seeing me, I specifically want an iron and a B12 if that's possible, because that will just give me a little bit more understanding to that red blood cell, white blood cell count. Okay, and then with fatigue, what I really want you to do is track it. I want you to track on a daily basis for 7 days continuously. I want days you work and days off. So if you don't get that in the 7 days, keep tracking until you get some days on and days off your job. If you're working and then not working, I'd like you to track what you're eating through the day, because I want to see if there's a food intolerance causing fatigue, but I also want to see the pattern of fatigue. I want to know, is this fatigue chronic, ongoing, or if you actually have ups and downs to the fatigue and when it sort of plays. And that's the best way to do is to track it. So track your energy on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being lying in bed shouting at yourself, get up, but you can't, you're so tired. 2, you're able to get up, but you've got to sit down. You're so tired. You have a shower, you sit down, you eat something, you've got to sit down. 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you've just got to sit down. 3, you're dragging your body. 4, you don't have to sit down, but you're dragging your body less, but you're still dragging your body. 5, you don't need to drag your body through the day. You can go about your daily tasks, but you would not describe yourself as energetic. 6 is a glimmer of energy. 7 is, yeah, I've got energy. I want more, but it's okay. 8, you're going, yeah, this is great energy. I'm really happy with it. So sure, I could have more, but that would be pretty hard. 9 is amazing energy. I'm really happy. How does it get any better than this? And then 10 is you've got so much energy. You've got to go and discharge something. You're going to do some star jumps or some push-ups, something to get rid of that energy. So track that for me. Then I want to talk about weight. If weight or fat gain and inability to lose fat is an issue, I pretty much want the same set of tests. I want thyroid, female hormone done on day 21. I'd like to get that testosterone, total testosterone, sex hormone binding globulin, free androgen index. I'd love to get, again, that oral glucose tolerance with insulin if you're able to devote 2 hours to it, or if a doctor would be agreeable to write that for you. If not, I just like fasting insulin, please. And then the final test, which I haven't mentioned until now, particularly when you're finding that you're gaining weight and it just doesn't make sense based on what you're eating, or that you're finding that you're always hungry and you seem to just want sweets and carbohydrates. So whether that's sweet or savory, you kind of want refined carbohydrates all the time. So chips, crisps, pretzels, or lollies, jubes, ice creams. So whatever that is, there's always something refined. You like cereal in the morning, you like a sandwich for lunch, you like pasta and rice for dinner. I really want you to get a test done, which is called leptin, Leptin. Leptin is functional pathology in Australia. You must pay for that. No doctor is going to fund that via Medicare. It's not able to be funded via Medicare. But that really tells me a lot about if leptin's going on for you, so as in high leptin levels, what's going to be happening in your body is you're going to feel hungry all the time, but you're going to be tired all the time, and you're going to be in weight gain mode, specifically fat gain mode. Gosh, it's going to be difficult to lose weight. So we need to know that. And then the final set of tests that I wanted to talk about is actually gut function tests. Now, regardless of what gut issue it is, so whether it's heartburn, dyspepsia, whether it's pain on the right-hand side, whether it's bloating, whether it's diarrhea, constipation, whether it's frequent urinary tract infections or vaginal infections, I'm not really going to give you a list of tests that I'd like you to get done, because gut tests very much depend on what your symptoms are and how they present and when they present, so when they happen. So rather what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to track what you eat for a minimum of 7 days. I'm trying to get a blend of work days and non-work days, or stressful days and happy days, because we've got to see the impact of your mood and emotions and sleep on your gut function as well. And what I want you to do is I want you to track each day what you're eating and then what your symptoms are and the time of day you ate and the time of day of your gut symptom and how intense your gut symptom is. So generally just use a scale of 1, 2, or 3. 1 mild, 2 moderate, 3 severe, and then time of day. You can work that out. And then that's going to help me work out what gut issues may be going on. We'll ask some more questions. And then more than likely I will send you off for some tests, but I'll have a much better understanding of what's going on. All right, that's it for me in terms of talking about the types of tests. What I now want to do is talk a little bit about the Australian Medicare system and paying for these tests and why doctors will order some things and won't order others. So for those of you who are watching from overseas, you can have a little nana nap now, or if you're interested in the Australian government system, listen on. It's fascinating. I think we've got an amazing medical health system. So in Australia, we have a system called Medicare, which is publicly funded, which means every Australian pays their tax and a portion of their tax goes into funding our universal healthcare system. So when you go and see your primary care physician or your specialist or your GP or a physiotherapist, a podiatrist, a dietitian, they can write tests for you. And if they agree with you and the kind of test that you want, they can access Medicare on your behalf, which means that you don't need to put your credit card out and pay for it. You do pay for it in your taxes, but there's no upfront charge to you. But the thing is, that medical professional has to agree that that test is relevant. And we respect that. This is the system under which we work, and we understand why it works. If medical professionals did every single test that we wanted, honestly, as an Aussie, we'd be paying 75% tax. None of us want that. So it's okay that our medical professionals actually say, hey, I'm not going to ask for that test. I don't understand it. I wouldn't know what to do with it if it came back outside of reference range normal, or I don't agree with you. We respect that. Still, we can ask, and we ask with respect. And the way to ask for a test is to really just be very detailed about what's going on for you. And that's why in those explanations of tests, you would have noticed that I wove through explanations of why you would want it, because I'd like you to, if that's going on for you, ask for those tests. It is not appropriate in Australia to say to your medical professional, my naturopath, my nutritionist, my herbalist wants these tests. It's not appropriate. That's not how this system works. You really run the risk of taking your medical professional and putting them offside. And I don't want that for you. I want the best outcome for you. It's up to me, if you see me, to write the test for you, right? So if your medical professional doesn't agree, then we'll have a conversation when we do meet, and we'll do that in a consultation when we do meet, and we'll judge whether or not we actually want that test. And if we do, we know that your GP or your medical professional won't write it. I'll write it for you. That's okay. I can write any test that I've mentioned. The only thing is I'm not allowed to access Medicare on your behalf. So it will cost you money. And at that point, I'll tell you what the cost is and when you'll be charged. And you and I will have a conversation about whether that's relevant and affordable for you. So when I mentioned the word functional testing, I specifically highlighted leptin, reverse T3. They are never Medicare bulk billable. So you will always need to pay for those. All right, so that's it for me. Thank you for listening. I've been talking for about 30 minutes, so I appreciate your attention. I hope that's provided interest and information. And if you'd like some more information, by all means, put it in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Until I actually see you in the flesh or on video or chat to you on phone, I wish you all the very, very best. I look forward to chatting with you soon. Bye-bye.